I've looked at a lot of your background, working with juvenile, working in the community, and now you want to run for state representative.
Actually, federal representative, U.S. House of
Oh,
Representatives.
so you're
Absolutely.
running for you're going for the top. You're going
Jumping
up there.
straight into the
Okay,
deep
so
end. No, 100%.
you're going U.S. Senate.
U.S. House of Representatives. And I'll tell you this, a quick little aside of why is that? Why is that? Because like I
Right.
said, I've never done politics except for a successful freshman class presidency.
Okay.
That's a few years ago. That's a few years ago. The reason why I specifically decided to go into for the federal level is because I've done so much work on the state level. 4 or 5 different departments. I've done so much work on the community level, on the ground level. There's only so much that you can get done.
Right.
And right now, the way that the state is, there's not much that you can get done as a Republican in this state. We've just seen that just recently.
Absolutely.
What we need to do is go from the top-down approach. Go from the highest level, bring it from a federal level, and then bring that down. Bring federal oversight and investigation. Bring federal success. Bring federal representation to the west side of the state that we don't have none on the Republican side. It is the fastest way to make the most impact. That's why I thought about it. That's why I went specifically for federal level. That, and when I look at the 8th Congressional District, man, I've lived in and around it my entire life. I was born in Sunnyside, Washington, which is just on the east side of the 8th. I grew up and graduated in Granite Falls, which is in the 8th. I've lived in Issaquah. When I was working, I used to wrestle over at Central Washington. When I was working for the Department of Corrections as a parole officer, many of my catchment areas were in the 8th District, out to Granite Falls, out to North Bend. I've lived, laughed, loved, served and protected the 8th Congressional District with my own life, man. It is not just lines on a map. That's my home. And the whole goal of any position I've ever had is the most impact that I can possibly have is what I want to do. I want to get in a position where I can have a lot of impact. And when I was looking at this from the perspective of if we want to make a change, we got to go from the top down. And what better place than the place that I've lived and worked and served my whole life than the 8th Congressional District. That's what drew me to that, to run for this seat.
Yeah, I think in Washington State, we've seen a status quo kind of atmosphere for the longest time. And the U.S. representation that we have right now, was it Patty Murray and Maria Cantwell? And
that's going to be on the Senate level, yeah. On the representative side, like I said, there's only 2 congressional representatives in the state, and they're both on the east of the mountains.
Who are ours? I don't even know who they are.
So right now we have Newhouse. He's for the 4th. He's about to be retiring. And then we got Baumgardner in the 5th. He's by basically the other half of Eastern Washington. Okay. So far removed, though, man, that mountain range really does take it kind of removes that representation. They don't really know what's going on over here on that west side.
Right.
With the 8th Congressional District, man, it's literally like taking a cookie cutter right in the center of Washington State, and that's the 8th Congressional District,
What I have noticed here in Washington State is it seems like our state representation would rather battle against the current federal administration than help its own citizens. And that's what I mean by this status quo. When it was President Biden, it didn't seem as if the state was working hard to battle against the Biden policies. And a lot of these weird policies got implemented here at the state level those last 4 years. And now people are fighting back against that. And now it seems like the state would rather fight against Trump than it would be to help the actual residents in their own state. Do you see that as well?
Oh man, you just hit on so much there right now. I'm trying to remember each little point that I really want to touch on. One of the things that's so phenomenal about the 8th Congressional District, it is one of the most evenly split districts in the United States, almost exactly 50-50. It gives that representative the right, should they choose to wield it, to be truly independent and truly speak for their people.
Okay.
What I've seen, though, so far is with the current congressional representative, the incumbent, all they do, they are a party line voter. No matter how crazy these bills are, the one that I reference to the most is HB 25 passed in 2020 or passed in 2025. The incumbent voted against it. It was the Born Alive Survivors of Abortion Act, if you can imagine what that entails. And this incumbent is a mother, is a pediatrician, and to vote against that, I couldn't believe it. But you're absolutely right with the whole status quo going along, even when President Biden was in office and the incumbent is in the Democrat Party. She doesn't even have a seat at the table. Right. She has no representation. My whole thing is bringing us a voice, being a seat at that table. I'm not there to be a yes man. I'm there to make sure things are getting better. There's a lot of bad optics from the previous administration, from back in the 45th administration. There's been incredible successes in the current administration, and we want to focus on, has everything gone right? No. Does everything ever go right with any administration? Definitely not.
And we're not going to agree on every single thing that's done at that level.
100%. But what we want to do is make things better. We want to be at that table to be able to make things better. The current representative we got is crying on the sidelines, wishing about how things aren't the way they wish they were. We need to get somebody at that table.
What are we going to do to get better? Instead of crying about it, what are we doing?
We need to be sitting at that table. We need that representation. That's what I'm running for, to make sure we have a voice. And you kind of touched on it. You're not always going to see eye to eye. No, not everyone's going to agree with every decision that I make, but I promise you I will back up every decision that I make with sound. Hey, this is where I'm coming from. This is why I'm doing it. My principles, my morals, they have not changed, and they will not change.
I love that. See, and that's part of why I think you stood out to me as a man of principle. I've seen some of the speeches and events that you went to, watched them online that you posted, and really impressed.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's action based. It's not just this is woulda, coulda, shoulda, or this is the status quo. This is working with what we got, but we can go. That's what we've had before. What I've seen from you is hey, look, guys, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to tell them this is the problem, and we're going to actually fix it, because the people here deserve better. The people here deserve better. You're saying like you've been here. This is your home. Well, a lot of people are afraid to stay here with the way things are when you can move to another state, whether it's Idaho, Texas, Tennessee, and you can get land, less taxes, and let's be honest, you're not going to have to pay. It seems right now like if you want to do anything, you have to just pay for it. I have to get a fishing license. The Discover Pass fees went up. Your parking fees.
Express lanes.
It's just one thing after another. Now this tax hike. I look at my own taxes at my county level too, and I'm like 10.3% property tax. That's Hollywood manager rates.
Oh no, seriously,
that's
right?
Hollywood manager rate, 10.3%.
And on the sales tax too, because you said it yourself, man. And I'm tired of losing my friends to other states. With all due respect, Texas is not better than Washington, and I've thought about it long and hard, man. I've lived here my whole life, born and raised. But I tell you, I get, the cold gets to me every once in a while. Right. And I've thought about it, like, where else in this union would I rather live? There's not another state in the union that I would rather live in than Washington State. It is the greatest state, but we got to make it great again.
Right.
Foremost in my campaign, one of the central pillars of my campaign is bringing accountability back. I touched on it earlier. I've worked for about 4 or 5 different state agencies. If I've seen an issue in one, I've seen them in all. And I'm not just talking single issues. We're not talking small cracks either. These are mile-wide fissures that are permeating throughout all these departments. We need to bring accountability back. This kind of goes back to that whole why we need to go from the federal level. Because you're not going to get an audit done at the state level. Not right now. They just told you they're not going to do any audits. So we're going to do it from the federal level. We're going to bring full federal audits to these departments and start rooting out these programs that only exist because the person that created them is the same person paying that politician their re-election campaign money. We're getting rid of that kind of stuff because you've seen it just like I have. These programs, they have no accountability, no success, no analysis of how they could even improve if they were doing anything, positive. We need to get rid of that stuff so we can start focusing on the programs that actually do work. Start bringing in programs that actually will make a change. When we can start rooting out the waste, we can start getting rid of those taxes. When we start seeing where that fraud's coming from, we're going to be getting rid of those elected officials, and then we're going to really start getting rid of those taxes.
Would that be like actually formalizing something like Doge or an accountability unit or something like that?
What I would like to do is get into the oversight committee in Congress so that we can start bringing in some investigations to the state, start investigating DCYF, start investigating DSHS, and start getting these fraud programs out, start looking into, the autism programs, the babysitting, the child care programs.
Right, because the state itself isn't going to investigate themselves accurately.
Well, they won't even do it at all. They just said it just recently how they won't investigate DCYF. But what the whole litmus is, why the 8th Congressional District is so pivotal, and I tell everybody this, that brass ring is just right there. It's so in reach. That's why we got to grab it. But the pivotal, the significance of it for the state, when people start seeing how the economy starts running in the 8th Congressional District, how crime is stopped, how investigation and oversight is brought from the 8th Congressional District, that's how we're going to start bringing back strong, responsible, common sense leadership to this state.
Kind of branching it out from there and showing this is now the new standard.
This is where we're going.
And we're going to kind of branch ourselves out from there with this new standard.
That is exactly
of if the state wants it. This is coming from the federal side. This is a new program that has been authorized by the Fed to investigate the fraud and hold these people accountable. Because part of what I do, and I don't get paid to do this, and I've implemented throughout my Overwatch program an independent accountability unit. And I do look at, and this is only things that are brought to me by the people, okay? And some things that I have of interest, of course, like the fraud in our schools and things like that. But what I do is exactly what you're talking about, but I've kind of formalized it already. And I think you would be a good way to help us get this. I look at what policy was implemented, what were the dates and the verbiage behind it, what changed, who sponsored it, what people are looking into this, who's working on this committee, one of the, all of the things as you do an investigation.
It's a huge list, isn't it?
But once you realize why that is so important, because I've developed this agency to look at those details. It's not pretty. It's not fun,
it's tedious,
but it is. But when you look at things like that, you're able to realize, oh no, I see what they're doing here. I don't have to agree with what you say, but you do have a right to say it. Even if it's a threat, you have a right to make it, but there will be consequences.
Exactly.
But I can't hold you accountable for the fact that you said it, is the thing. If you do something actionably based off of that, you will be held accountable. But if you just say something, I cannot, for the life of me, as an American, hold you to this kind of standard just based on verbiage, right? But if it's on paper, and this is the new standard, and they're getting state funding for it, I have to look into it. Because I realize that I'm a stakeholder in my state, county, city, wherever I'm living, as I'm paying taxes. So I want to look into it. Why wouldn't we independently investigate these things if they're telling you that they won't investigate it? That's the part I don't understand. If they're telling us that they won't do it and they're going to battle against the Fed, well, what about the people? Who's going to investigate it then? So I kind of just did it myself. And I think if I could show you one day, like actually the details of even what I did with that one, I did a full report, and I just send it straight to the US DOJ every time. I'll do the full detail, and because the state won't help me.
100%.
I report it to US DOJ.
And exactly, and how far that gets, you don't know who's looking at it and when, you don't know.
Right.
That is absolutely the kind of thing that I'd be wanting to look into going into DC. And you were looking, you saw right at it, and that's the tough part about doing it from the outside in, from like a Doge perspective. Is you're hunting and pecking. You're trying to find something, searching in the night because you don't know where to look, what programs. You're just, hey, let me look at this one and go there. You picked a great one to go for because that is so enigmatic of where that kind of waste and fraud is going to come from. Oh, we got it for this, and it sounds so good. It's such a great program, but there's no accountability. And even worse, the people that can define these definitions, that can define who we're going to go after and pursue, are all single-sided perspectives.
Thank you. Black Lives Matter.
Very perspective, very biased perspective, where it's only going to be their agenda. And again, it's always going for their agenda. When you talk about the domestic terrorism thing, and it isn't exactly a defined thing, one thing I would like to do is get gangs listed as domestic terrorists. But that is so defined what they're doing. They are shooting up neighborhoods. It's not just about protesting or this. It is very clear, and it's not agenda focused. And that's what people are getting so focused on, especially one side versus the others, being all agenda focused.
You want to go into an oversight committee at the U.S. level. Do you think if you were to actually go in there and show them what is going on in Washington State and how the people are being affected right now? Because it kind of seems to me, and I think it seems like this to a lot of people here in Washington State, that the feds either don't care or they kind of just write us off of the left is taking over the West Coast and the West Coast is just doomed.
There's a lot of that.
It kind of bothers me when it's like, wait a minute now, there's a lot of people here that don't feel this way.
Mm-hmm. I think in the current administration, they're putting a lot more emphasis on the West Coast, especially Washington State. With having the World Cup in here, Trump has already put emphasis on, hey, we need to get Seattle cleaned up. And we know that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. But when we start bringing in this wave of common sense, strong leadership, that's how we're going to bring this state back.
Right. Instead of working against it, why not work together to fix the problems that are here? Because there's a lot of things that can be fixed without just money.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand why it's not done, especially if they're going to hand a certain amount of money to these community nonprofits. Why aren't they doing the work? That's the part I don't understand.
And that's the thing. That's where that waste comes from. That's where that fraud comes from. Because those programs, the people running them are the friends of the politicians. Man, I want to help my friend out, and they're getting paid six-figure salaries. It's like, come on, it's not affecting, it's not making anything better, but it's carrying on this industrial complex to carry their friends, to keep making them richer, while the poor don't do any better. And then when they get these programs going, there is no means to an end with these programs. That's what I've seen so much. It's so frustrating to work with, as in parole and in the community, is there's no means to an end. You just continue the problem. You don't do anything to try to solve it or try to get them beyond it.
Right.
It's ineffective. Exactly.
We can't put a Band-Aid on the bullet wound.
No, that's not going to fix the issue.
I've seen it happen. It don't work.
No good comes of it. No good comes of it.
I look at these situations, and a lot of them for the people that live here, because there's a lot of hardworking people here.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm seeing people in their 70s and 80s come out of retirement to have to work again because they just can't afford it anymore here. Do you think by going to the U.S. side at the national level that you could help bring some affordability back here, or what does that look like in the future for Washington State?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Another pillar of my campaign is affordability. And I'll hit on it right off because that's where we left off with the seniors, with 70 or 80-year-old grandfather having to go back to work, would like to sell their house, move into something smaller that would be more fitting for them, but with capital gains taxes, it's so prohibitive. They lose all the investment, all the value that they have built over those years. What I would like to do is end capital gains taxes on home sales, really start freeing up the market, letting our seniors and our homeowners realize the full potential of the capital that they've built within their home over those years. Not only that, but also freeing up the market for single-family homes. That's a real big thing to me, single-family homes. I know a lot on the left want to do the multifamily housing and apartment complexes, things like that. Yeah. That's not the American dream, man. That's not the American dream. No one grows up and says, I hope I can live in an apartment and pay rent for the rest of my life. No, we want single-family homes. And that's one way that I want to do it. As far as for more affordability, permanently cementing those recent tax breaks for our seniors and the working class, tax-free tips, tax-free overtime, tax-free Social Security. That's important. That's going to be running up in 2028. My opponent, the incumbent, there's no way she's going to vote for extending that or cementing that. And I promise I will. I will make sure that gets passed. I will make sure I am voting for that for sure. Because, and I was having a conversation the other day with some people down in King County about what's going on, what's important. And for sure, some of the other people that were trying to speak, we're talking about Iran, and that's huge, obviously.
Yeah.
But when it gets down to it, when we're at our dinner table, when we're talking around the dinner table, even more importantly, worrying about what we're going to put on that dinner table.
Thank you.
Affordability is what matters the most right now, man.
Can I afford a pound of ground beef?
How much is that grocery basket going to cost? And affordability to me is, one day I was shopping and my cart was, I had a little basket. I figured about $20, and then I checked it out and it was $35.
Right.
It was the same stuff I've been buying. Where did this $15 come from? Mm-hmm. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about affordability. We need to make sure that, getting the taxes under control is important. Make sure we can bring in some, not just living wage jobs, but family wage jobs. None of this minimum wage jobs. I'm tired of shooting for the bottom of the bucket.
Why do you think that's been the status quo? Is minimum wage? Because it's the bare minimum to make profit and do slave wages.
It's the same thing with the no means to an end. It's if we'll take care of them there, and then they're taking care of it. Don't have to worry about it. But it's giving them no future, no life worth living. No one wants to keep working at their minimum wage job. We need to make sure that we can get skills to progress ourselves. Bring back trade programs, bring back trade schools and apprenticeships, start working on trades programs where people can start retiring and building income and building family wage jobs. That's what I want to be bringing in. Start bringing in more of that, more AI-proof jobs, more energy sector jobs. That's what I plan to do in Congress.
Right. Okay. I like that vision. There's action-based.
Yeah, you got to attack it on both ends. We want to try to make things more affordable. We want to make people get to be able to afford more.
Right. So let me ask you this. When you talk about capital gains, for a lot of people who don't understand what that is that something like right now, if I were to sell my home in Washington State and make a profit on it, I would end up paying more in taxes because I now made big capital? I would have to pay those taxes to the state now?
That's exactly it.
Instead of taking that and being able to invest it somewhere else?
And what's so bad about it, good and bad, sweet and sour, is the home values in Washington have increased so much that there's so much more capital in there, but so much more taxation on that capital.
Seems inflated. Mm-hmm. So it seems like it's been inflated purposely so they can force people to sell because they think that their home is of big value, but really they're just going to have to pay that in taxes.
Yeah, no, it's disingenuous. Wow. It's not helping the people.
Wow, I didn't realize that. So that what I've seen around here, specifically in Thurston County, is it looks like they're building a lot of single-family homes. However, the entire lot and foundation is bought by one company, and one company owns all of the property now. And instead of these people just, figuring out they buy this property from the bank in the county, now they're really investing into some business venture with one company that owns all of these homes.
Yeah, and oftentimes those will be rentals and things like that.
Yeah,
and there's been a lot of that. A lot of people talk about Blackwater buying up all the single family homes. I know the Trump administration is working to get that to end. Okay. What I would like to do to go beyond that is, and this is something I need to work on, and this is things that I'd be working on collectively in Congress, but finding some way to get some kind of tax incentive for a company like that to want to sell off those assets to an individual, so we can start freeing up the market some more. Because if they don't do that anymore, that's great, but they've already done so much, bought up so many properties.
Right.
If we can get those back into the hands of the individual, that's what I want to see, man. Well, I don't see how anybody wouldn't want to see that.
Have you seen what happened here with the mushroom farm, that land? We used to have a big mushroom farm here in Lacey, and it burned down a couple of years ago by one of the kids. They burned it down, and they cleared out the entire lot, and now they're putting up single-family homes there.
Okay.
But they're all of these cookie-cutter houses. They're really, the narrow houses, and they're all right next to each other. Everything looks the exact same, kind of like on-base housing.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it just to me, it just looks so unnatural. And then it's just owned by one property owner who owns that entire estate, and they're just putting all these little homes there, and it's just like
build them for the lowest cost.
Who really gains here? I don't think it's the people who are buying these homes here, because when they sell it, you're saying they don't have to pay capital gains. What about the one who owns the entire lot? How does that? I don't understand that.
they're definitely going to be at incentive to make a lot of money and try to keep the cost down as low as possible. What they try to do with that properties afterwards is that's going to be handled on a state level depending on what they can set up. What I would like to do on the federal level is make there to be the incentive for the state to want to be able to let the individual buy the house, for the company that is trying to do these developments, the developers, to release those properties so that people can buy it.
So giving the developer an incentive to release it to the individual property or the individual who wants to own the home.
If that's not being done, that's definitely something that should be done.
I like that because it kind of looks shady when you have an entire development owned by one company instead of each house there and property owned individually with different banks.
Well, and it'd be nice if people could start buying properties. And I see where you're going with that is, when you have these lands and it's getting developed and you want to buy a property there and you want to have a house that doesn't look like every other one there, there needs to be a way to do that. And there should be. It would be nice if there's, because there's not. Because when you do get those property developers in there and they buy that whole asset, they're not going to sell just one property. But what if they could? Right. What if they could do that so a person could have more input on their house as opposed to just this bathtub or that bathtub?
Well, it seems to me like the company that owns the entire lot there would be kind of skipping the incentive or the capital gains there if it now goes to the individual who owns the property, because they only own all of the land there, right? They're going to get that money back in each individual home that's sold there.
I'm not sure exactly how that would work out for the property as far as if they would be paying that tax on each property that they're selling, or if that would just be handed down on the individual.
Right. So, I don't know either. I'll have to look into that. It's something to look at. It would definitely be something for oversight, you know what I mean, to look into, because let's say that is going on here at the state level and the U.S. Senate or Congress could intervene and be like, hey, why not give this back to the people to save some on the back end? You know what I mean?
It gives more leverage to pull, and that's what it's about. And what representation is about, what we should be doing beyond supporting the American citizen is making life better.
Yeah.
And those are the things that we need to look in to see if there's a way that we can make life better. I don't know all the answers, but if I look at something like that and like, hey, maybe there's a way we can make this better that's going to make the lives better of my constituents, of my fellow Americans, then that's what we need to be. That is our job. That is what we're supposed to be looking into, 100%.
Let me ask you this. As far as the Republican Party is concerned, and I don't want to sound, anybody who's watching this, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing on the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, because I see pros and cons to all things. Specifically this state, when it comes to the Democratic Party, it seems like they're operating on 100% pure agenda and rhetoric. Mm-hmm. And the Republican Party is doing what they can to battle against that. But nothing's actually getting done for the people. And it just seems like there's so much constant division on rhetoric, and these little things just keep getting slipped in because people are focused on rhetoric instead of what's actually being done here. Do you see that happening in Washington, D.C. as well?
Now I come from a political science major, and it's funny. I've told this analogy many times, whether it is nation states going at war, siblings fighting, gang wars, college rival, things like the dynamics are always the same no matter what. No matter what, conflict is conflict, no matter what the parties are. And so when you're talking about what we're seeing in Washington State with, the Democrat Party affecting their agenda and the Republicans trying to basically see it as fires that they need to put out and the people being lost in the middle. And that is 100% what's happening, because you don't go to the first day of the legislative session with 1,000+ bills for the people. You're doing that for your agenda.
Right.
And do I see the same thing in Washington, D.C.? 100%. You see, the Democrat Party, all they're doing is effectively trying to stop every fire that they see coming from the administration.
Right.
and what's being lost is getting actual work done. Now, what I've seen more on the administrative side and on the federal level is a lot more being done for the people, 100%. Whereas in this state, with something such as the get rid of the sheriff act that they're trying to push through.
Goodness.
Yeah, no, they're creating problems that don't even exist. I've called them this before. Fire-starting firefighters is what this Democrat Party is. They create problems that aren't even there just so that they can get us to stop focusing on the ones that are actually there. We need to get away from that kind of stuff, focusing on what's really going on. When I started this campaign, man, the things that I'm running on, the things that I talk about, one, they transcend party lines, Who doesn't want to see strong schools? Who doesn't want to see justice? Who doesn't want to see affordability and accountability?
Right.
Those are things that resonate with everybody. The reason why they resonate with everybody, why they are what I run on, and why there's the foundation of my campaign is because when I was out on those streets working with those families, looking into those victims' eyes, these are the problems that I was encountering. These are the systems that are failing. These are the things that need to be fixed.
Every time. And it's not a surprise.
It's what we're all seeing.
Well, and it's not like that, but when you actually stop and talk to people, they'll tell you. They're not afraid to tell this.
Talk and listen. Because I hear it all the time from my opponent. She's always talking how she's going and talking and listening to the people. But if you're selecting what people you're listening to, that's not giving you a true agenda. That's not giving you an accurate barometer of the climate. You got to go out to where they are. When I was doing this work, the work that I did in the community, it wasn't to become a politician. It was because I saw the problem. Foremost of my ethos is where's the biggest problem? And that's where I'm going to go to try to do what I can to fix it. I've done that at every position I've been in. That's why I'm running for office right now, because I see what the problem is. I want to do what I can to fix it. Actions, not words.
Status quo.
Actions, not words. 100%, man.
I think that is something admirable, and you have a baseline, you have value, you got some principle, and I'm going to say this: we need strong, conservative men in these positions. I'm not trying to say that women are qualified to be in these positions. I just think of where we are right now. We need some strong men to be able to bring it to the table and be like, no more. This is how we're going to fix it, and I need you guys to vote on this.
Exactly.
This is what we're doing. We need to fix it. Stop beating around the bush.
We need strong leadership, and I'm not saying we don't need females in there. We definitely do. And I'm not saying there's not plenty of strong females out there. I've worked with plenty in the department I would never mess with them. They're tougher than me.
Of course.
We need strong leadership. And what I want to do is lead the charge. That's what I am. What position was I? Serving a warrant, getting a door knocked down. First position. Why? Because I'm a door kicker. I'm a door knocker downer. That's what I'm doing. Knocking this down and leading the charge of the direction that we're going to be heading as a party, as a state. Strong, responsible, common sense leadership. It starts with me, but it doesn't end there. This is just leading the charge. There's going to be more just like me that stand strong on our principles, strong on our values, that don't back down from those.
Right.
That's what we need. We need that kind of voice, and there's going to be more coming. I'm starting out as being the voice for those that can't speak up, but there's going to be a whole lot more behind me.
That's important, especially today.
That's all I care about. It's not about me. It's about bringing others up,
Because it seems like we're on the same path. I'm not running for office. I don't have any plans on it, but
we're here to help the community. That's all we're here to do.
Exactly. So why not come together and bridge all of the pieces? Because it's not going to be just the system fixing it. It's not going to be just my way of fixing it. But together, there's different ways that we can approach this situation and get it done.
It's the people that will fix it. And that's what diversity is, man. I don't know how many diversity questions I've ever asked. I hated every one of them, because what it is just, diversity to me is just the people, just community. Right. Hey, I don't want, I don't have friends that all think like me. I like friends that think opposite like me. I have friends on both sides of the political spectrum. I don't like a bunch of yes. Exactly.
If you want to get anything done, you can't just be a one-trick pony, first and foremost.
Definitely.
And you can't only align with people who think like you, because that creates an echo chamber.
Oh, yeah. That's a bubble.
I say this all of the time. I want to hear, okay, well, if you're opposed to what I'm saying, what are your arguments? What are your arguments? If you're just going to call me names or whatnot, if you're just going to call me names, I'm going to fire right back at you. If anybody knows or seen my content, they know I'm going to fire right back at them raw, because that's how I am. I'm going to fight fire with fire, but I always try to bring them right back in with conversation and be like, okay, well, how would you approach this situation? What would you do better? Would you like to talk about it? You know what I mean? And once you start asking them those real questions, a lot of the time they were just doing talking points. Yeah. And they haven't really put that effort and thought into it.
I've seen that so much where they don't have any of the foundation, but you're so spot on with that. Approaching things from a position of curiosity. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. Like, okay, I'm not going to approach this as a judgment base. I'm just going to approach it as a curiosity position. That's why I really feel that I'm so uniquely positioned to run with this seat, because I'm so used to just working on things that I may not accept, but I work to understand them. Right. I don't accept it, but I understand it. We don't accept that, but we're going to work to improve it. This is where we're starting, but that's not where we're finishing. But that's where we're starting. We're going to go from there.
Keeping that vision there.
That was the thing I would tell to all the guys I was working with, especially the juveniles, or any person when they got some new violations or something. It's okay. This is done. We're going to address it. We're going to handle it. But what's most important is, what do you do next? What happens next? That's the most important thing. What's done is done. What can we do going forward? That's what I'm all about, man. That's why, I plan to carry this 8th district and the state of Washington and on down the West Coast to a greater future.
When it comes to Washington, D.C., and working with the madhouse that is there currently, mm-hmm. What do you feel it's going to take to shake it up? Like, honestly, shake up the status quo? Because it seems right now that there's very few that want to work for the people. And it worries a lot of people that the system might be collapsing. So what's the point of continuing the status quo? Does that make sense?
I have 100% makes sense. And I see in that a whole lot. And there's probably plenty of reasons why we're getting so many retirements. Some are just because, hey, we need generational change, something that I plan to bring. Mm-hmm. But there's definitely probably some there that are stepping out. It's like, oh, this is an impossible fight. You know what? To me, though, the impossible fights are the only ones worth fighting.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, somebody's got to try.
When I decided to run in this race, I looked at it from an independent perspective.
Yeah.
I grew up as a Democrat, not going to lie. I like helping people.
I think a lot of us did.
And you know what? The party back then was so much different compared to what it is now. Now it's just running on trying to stay in power and control money. Mm-hmm. Back then it was about helping people. Now it's just so eroded. When I looked at it from an independent perspective, and looking at the platforms, I couldn't make it past a few questions on the Democrat side before I was like, I cannot align with that by any of my morals. Looking at the Republican side, though, so much alignment, and that's what I really want to focus on, is getting people to understand that there's so much more commonality there, and there could be light years of space between themselves and, say, the Liberal Party that they don't even recognize. But looking at that, having not always been Republican, but coming over here because of what it stands for. Mm. When I decided to run as a Republican, though, to me, there's more meaning there. Winning as a Democrat in Washington State is really no big deal. It's kind of expected, more or less.
Right.
Winning as a Republican, though, that makes a difference. That sets off some fireworks. That there's impact there. It's not just a gimme. You have more impact, more influence. It is harder to do, but there's more fruit to bear when you do it.
There we go.
That's why I wanted to go for that. It's like, I don't want to just take the easy route. I want to stand by my virtues, stand on what I represent, not try to bring some far liberal party into alignment with what my beliefs are. I want to align with people that hold my beliefs. And that's what I saw when I joined the Republican Party. That's why I so strongly resonate with them, and why I really do feel uniquely positioned to get that message out to people, that get them past that blue smoke screen where they think that their values and their party's values are so closely aligned, and yet they're light years apart.
Do you, as a minority, catch a lot of flack for representing Republican Party? Because I sure as hell do.
I don't know how to look at this, because most of the time I don't even know if people think that I'm a minority.
Right.
Until they look at my last name, they're like, that's not necessary. That's not Smith. You know what? Here, though, this is, and I love touching on this because my dad, and it's crazy because people often say that you tend to have the same party affiliation as your father, and I didn't because I was a Democrat. My dad's been a Republican, and he's an immigrant, legal immigrant here from Mexico. And I remember having this conversation with him when I told him, when I announced him that I was running for Congress, and we discussed about immigration, and it was so refreshing that our views were 100% in alignment, and they really should be in alignment with anybody that has values.
Right.
And that is, it is disingenuous to say the least. It is a slap in the face to the people that have put their work in to do it the right way, to get their papers, to come over here legally and put that effort in. I remember going to some of those processes with my dad back in the day when I was a little kid. There's value in that, and I don't want to discredit that value by just making our citizenship be worth nothing. Yeah, I come from a Hispanic Mexican background, but I haven't noticed a whole lot of flack. I really want to be that beacon of like, hey, this is how we can go. We don't have to be falling for these smoke and mirrors and this rhetoric. These are what our beliefs are. I'll be full up front and honest with everybody about where I stand and what I believe in. And if you align with that, please join with me. And especially if you're on a minority side, 100%, because we don't need to be with this liberal party that proclaims that they are for us under these guises of equity and inclusion, when really it's just a guise to progress their agenda of power control and bringing in money. They're not trying to help others out. They don't speak for everybody on that same platform. They don't stand up for all minorities. They're not standing up for me because I'm a Republican. I stand up for people because they're people. Whether we agree or not, I still want to represent you. Even the people that don't like me, that don't vote for me, I want to stand up for them the most because you know what? I want to prove to you that I am still here for you. I'm not bought.
Right. That's the most beautiful thing, is if you could actually stand up for those that don't support you, that's how you know there's some genuineness behind what you're saying. Not just, I'm doing this because it's the opposite of what you're saying or because it feels good. No, I'm still going to stand there and represent you too, even though you don't like me.
100%, man.
Like,
I've had...
this is our home.
In some of my careers, I'll go back to when I was a parole officer for the Department of Corrections. There was this one guy, he came in, and he was in violation. I could have taken him to jail. And he was one of Washington's worst, man. He did some bad stuff, no joke. And he came yelling at me, just going off on me. I'm just like, are you kidding me, man? And I didn't arrest him. I worked with him through his violation to where we could do it out of custody. And then this guy at the very end just wanted to ask me for some bus tickets.
Oh, wow.
Like, I don't need to give him this, but you think I didn't? Of course I gave him those bus tickets. I didn't care. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I see where you're coming from. I don't accept it, but I understand it. I'm here to help you, man. I'm not here to make you like me, but I'm here to help you.
It's still a human being. They're still a human being.
Hey, I'm used to that. I'm used to working with the people that don't like me and helping them out.
Well, especially if you're going to be going into work like this, you kind of have to.
You got to.
If
you want to be successful, if you're not in it for yourself, then you got to.
Well, one of the things I learned is you're not really involved if people that are in those positions don't know who you are. If some of those people, like especially in your own city and county, you're really not as involved as you think. Because if you're involved, you're going to start to get the attention of them whether you want to or not. And if you're, like I said, if you're actually bearing real fruit, you're going to catch their attention.
Oh, yeah.
One way or another, whether it's pro or con, you're going to catch attention if you're actually bearing fruit. The problem I see is people confuse online interaction with actual action.
True.
And what I've tried to do is make a brand of showing people what can be done with the bare minimum and being a part of the process. So one of the things I learned in the last 2 years is that as a regular American citizen, a Washington resident, I can log on to the state legislature website and put my position very easily on every bill that's being proposed, through the process, through the hearings, and you can be a part of it as a citizen, even if you can only do it virtually.
Or you can even testify.
virtually.
Yeah.
And there are so many people who don't realize that is even possible.
And how easy it is to do.
Yeah. And I tell people, I will send you my testimony. All you got to do is copy and paste and change up what works for you.
I've gotten those emails. And I've testified in front of those hearings, man. It is huge. It doesn't even matter what impact it has. You know you did something. And that's what matters.
You have it on the record. And I try to tell people, there's 10 million of you guys right now that are on this thread. Let's say 10 million of you guys should be flooding that legislature.
Click and send.
You know what I'm saying? You should be flooding it and send it to all of them. Send it to every last one of them. There was only one representative I've seen in Washington State. That was Jim Walsh. We did the Keep Kids Safe rally in January. And he said he hit the nail on the head so well, and it has stuck in my brain. He said, these rallies are great, but if you're not going in there to their offices or putting it on the record, it does not count.
If it ain't written down, it didn't happen.
It does not count.
No, you're right, man.
Because once they are in the position, they have to go with what's on the record. And I don't think people realize that. If whatever's on the record is there, that's what they have to base. They can't base it off of Facebook or Instagram.
No.
They would be a fool if they did.
They don't check those group chats.
Right. They have to go off of what's on the record. So letting people know that they can be a part of the record is so important right now more than ever.
And that is so accessible. And it is. I get tons of emailers that are just like, click and send. Click and send. These are the bills. If you disagree, vote here. If you're con, vote here. You know, it's very easy, very accessible.
So easy.
And I do like that about the state government in Washington, that we do have that ability to do that. You know, like I was testifying on the masking for law enforcement recently, and it still passed, but we still made an impact. We still had a difference. Record. You know, we're still fighting. We're not just laying down.
So what do you do after is the question, right? Because a lot of people give up there. And I've learned, wait a minute. We can still do something with those records, people. Take those records, take your public testimony, and blast them on social media and make an example out of them. For what? 2, start a lawsuit. These are the individuals who went against the will of the people. Start it. At least it puts them on notice.
Well, that's what's going to happen with all of these bills that are going through that are just getting crammed through. The sheriffs, masks, the income tax. They're going to get brought through in court.
The thing is that you have to have those people bring those testimonies to that. So that way we can have X amount of count. You know how it works. We have 100,000 counts against these sponsors on treason charges for this against the Constitution that they don't even read, that they've admitted to that they don't even read. How can you be a representative? You haven't even read the Constitution.
That's not representing.
How in the world does that work? How can you
representing their agenda?
How can you be championing and voting on legislation for guns if you've never even read what the state constitution says in particular to guns? That's an absolute, first and foremost, that should be a disqualifier.
Legislating blind.
How do you do that? You can't just tell me what you're only going off of what the people who are paying you and donating to you think, because that is absolutely wrong. And we can follow that now. So holding them accountable at the state level, I think is we're getting there, and we're teaching people how to do it. Bringing that mindset to the U.S. and D.C. the way that you've told me, I think is going to be imperative.
It's what's going to make that change.
I got to ask, as someone who wants to go to D.C., because a lot of people are getting split on this right now, and I think myself included, is I'm looking for America First candidates. Does that sound right to you?
You know, I've been asked that before, and how I answer is how I'm going to answer right now. I'm Washington first. I'm Americans first, 100%. If you're not that, what are you doing here? You know, like, and when I say that, I mean my people, my community, because that's what I've always been about, is helping them out. That's
the best.
That's just what this is about. Is
you said Washington first, America. That's perfect.
I mean,
because I just see so many people flip flop when they get in there, and now they're just working for Israel, working for whomever, and it's like, well, wait a minute, dude. That doesn't have anything to do with what the problems we're having here.
Here's one thing I want to touch on earlier. One of the biggest things about me is I'm not a money-motivated person. Most jobs, I'm either there for a year or less, or I'm there for about 3 to 4 years. I don't stay around long because I want to make more impact. I want to go to somewhere else that needs my help, make an impact there. I'm not a money-driven person. My first job that I ever took was at an all-teenage girl group home with behavior issues. If that don't scare, man, I don't know what does. Teenage girls with behavior issues in the foster system. I mean,
it don't get scary.
And I went there as the only male staff working there, the only male staff that had been there in many years, getting paid $10 an hour, paid once a month. I didn't go there for the money. I had 2 competing job offers when I took that position, actually, for a manager at a rental car company. And then I was a licensed insurance agent at the time, so I had an insurance agency offer. Turned them both down. I didn't care about the money. I cared about the impact. The amount of impact that you can have on kids like that, there's no way I could say no. I still remember that night, fighting internally in my head of what I'm going to do, because I knew I wanted to take that job. I'm like, there's no way I can take this job. It's paying me $10 an hour. Right. I get paid once a month. These other jobs are going to pay way more than that. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't say no to that job, and I took it, not because of money, but because of impact. I'm not a money-motivated person. I'm an impact-motivated person, So it's not about, these donations or being ruled by that person or being influenced by that. Whatever's the right choice, whatever's the right thing, standing on principles, using that independence that we have in the 8th Congressional District, and that's going to catch on like wildfire, man. Wow. That's what I'm expecting, is it to catch on like wildfire and us to start getting more state representatives like that, more state legislators like that, more federal legislators like that, and on down into the counties and the cities. There's more of us that have this kind of like-minded sense. We just need to realize that there are us. The Republican Party in Washington State is the only party here that has tens of thousands of people in the coffers that just aren't turning out because we think we don't have a shot. Yeah. But we do. Yeah. We know where the Democrat ceiling is because they always turn out every year, the same amount. We don't know where our ceiling. We know where our floor is, but we are the only ones that have tens of thousands of people that can be turned out. We need a presidential turnout.
That's what I try to tell these folks here. It's like, you guys, we need to organize. We need to do better, and we need to show others how the process works. Because when I looked at the numbers on just one of the bills, I ran the numbers versus how many registered voters we have in the state and just how many residents we have in the state. Mm-hmm. And it turned out that less than 1/5 of 1% is actually involved. And that just broke my heart.
That's so true, man. It's very true.
When you have 300 votes deciding a city's mayor, that should scare everybody.
Yeah, no, that's pretty accurate. All you need to win a mayor race is about 500 or 750 votes.
I think the Young one at first was like 317 at first. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
How does that even happen?
Our votes are so meaningful because there's so few out there,
How does something like that happen? Well, I can tell you what I think is in Washington State, people just give up because of the mail-in voting.
What it's gonna take, what I believe, and the reason why I'm running so hard is because what it's gonna take is somebody that resonates with people, somebody that resounds deep inside the heart of every voter out there, that really gets them to want to get off their hands and get that ballot turned out. There's got to be somebody that motivates them like that. That's what I'm looking to do. That's why this whole campaign is not about raising money. I need to do that. I definitely need to do that a lot better than I'm doing. But it's about getting that message out there, letting people realize that we can win, that we will win, that we can bring this state back. We can make Washington great again. Getting that message. But it takes a strong figure to do it. It takes a Trump. It takes a Charlie Kirk. It takes an Andres Valleza to get people out there, and that's what we're going to do.
I'm willing to help, man.
I appreciate that, bro. I need all the help I can get. I appreciate all the support we can get. There is plenty of room on this wagon for everyone to sit.
I think that if we as a community of like-minded individuals, and even those who disagree, can be willing to realize that we agree on more things than we disagree on.
Oh, yeah.
And this is our home. Not looking at this as dividing lines, left, right, blue, red, none of that stuff. looking at this as this is our home.
Mm-hmm.
There are problems within our home, and we can clean it up. We don't have to wait for someone else to come and clean it up. Let's clean it up ourselves and set the standard and let other people know, well, look at what they're doing in the 8th and look at what can be done elsewhere. Why are we not?
Mm-hmm.
We're wasting money on whatever climate change program and filling gopher holes when our people are eating out of trash cans.
Yep.
That's not okay. I as an American, I can't look at a dude digging out of a trash can as okay, but they have money for gopher holes. I'm sorry, I don't care about them gophers.
Yep, exactly.
I
Wasted money.
I don't care. I got a dude eating out of a trash can, and you guys are looking at him like he's the problem. Maybe he made a bad choice, and he's kind of stuck in this situation. He's still a human being.
Mm-hmm.
He's still a human being. I'm sorry, but that gopher ain't doing nothing for me.
Yeah, I'm tired of them looking at those individuals as non-voters, so they don't have to worry about them electing them out or unelecting them. Trying to just carry on these problems when they don't even know what these problems are. Because, like I said, it's an industrial complex. There's so much money that pours into these, and so little actually goes to the streets. And what does has so little impact, if even any effect, let alone positive effect, to actually get these people going forward. That's why I talk to people all the time. When we fight with heart, we win no matter what. You don't lose no matter what. When you fight with heart, you always win.
Well, I look at the same way with truth. If you tell the truth, no matter how good or bad, whatever the outcome is supposed to happen. Period. If I lay out the truth, raw, real, no matter how good, no matter how bad, whatever happens after that is what's supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's real simple.
No, you're 100%. You're 100%. That's what's supposed to happen. Yeah, because it's the truth. It unfolds as it should,
and you don't have to think about it if it's true.
Yeah,
that's what's so important, I think. And shaking it up, I think being a dedicated voice in DC and you having worked for the system in where it matters, working with juveniles, working with probation, parole, first and foremost what it looks like at the lowest level regarding our system.
I know where the biggest. I've seen the biggest problems.
It gets very much worse than children being arrested and part of the system. I don't think it gets very much worse other than a child dying. Like there's children dying, being raped, and then there's children being locked up and incarcerated and fucked in the system. That's the truth.
You are 100%, man. You are 100%. Absolutely. That is the farthest end of that spectrum. Absolutely. 100%. I've never had someone put it like that, and it's so true.
It's kids. So
it is the epitome, the grandest failure of a system. 100%. Because that is what is the government supposed to do? Protect its citizens. Who are the most vulnerable? The children. And
they're so easily influenced by behavior that is opposite of what is there around, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody is consistently around you promoting bad behavior, but they're consistent around you, you're going to adapt that behavior. They're consistently around you, you see that as that's the norm.
Yeah.
So you're going to start to emulate that behavior.
Yep.
If in your home your parents are never around and not instilling values, you're going to pick up values from somewhere. And these kids are like sponges.
The media that they're being placed for them to pick up values like that is not good. Yeah. There's no more Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or Family Matters on TV anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's the influences they're getting is exactly.
You have to do it for real. In my Friday night, I even tell the kids, I don't allow them to be doing raunchy music and stuff in here.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them, keep it family-friendly, PG-13. If there's cuss words, you blank them out yourself, or I'm going to cut it off. I don't allow it. Mm-hmm. If it's distasteful, I'm not allowing it.
Mm-hmm.
We do checks.
Standards.
Yes, standards. Because there's a lot of, these sexual deviants here in Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
And they try to infiltrate programs with youth.
Yeah.
I don't play that. I do not play that. So I have safeguards in place.
Nice. And that's what it comes down to. And it's so important, as much as it, the words you use matter. I didn't always see that, but it really does. The words that you use really do matter, and they really influence you. Same thing with the standards. When you hold standards for yourself and others see that, it causes them to raise their standards. Right. And that's what we're here to do.
Every kid's parents that drop their kids off here are trusting me with their kids.
It's a huge respect.
It's bigger than
awesome
anything.
responsibility.
It's an awesome one, but it's the biggest responsibility that one can have because they're not my kids.
100%,
so
man.
A parent is trusting in an open environment. And I do it probably the scariest way possible. Anybody is welcome to come into the cafe. I can't stop that, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm going to ensure that those that are going to be hanging out for my event specifically sign in. If you're not here for the event, you just want to come drink some coffee or whatnot, cool. But if you're here for my event, you're going to sign in.
Yeah, if you're going to be interacting, you're going to be engaging.
Simple as that. And we've had zero problems.
I'm not surprised.
And we're just going to continue to grow from there because these kids know that we care.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 2 of the teenagers last night fill out and give me parent information because they want to volunteer and learn how to run the system.
And that's what I was like, and you're going to get people that start doing your job for you.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, this is perfect. So now the teens can run the system.
That's what I call an influencer.
All I have to do is walk around and make sure it's safe. Let the kids run the system.
Yup.
Learn how to run the show.
That's how it's supposed to be done, man.
You know what I mean? And now they get their community time as well, or their volunteer
CS hours, yeah. Yup. And look what they're doing, man. Look what they're doing. In elementary school.
Elementary school? I'm the problem?
It's the agenda. It's the agenda. You know, and one of the things that my opponent is going to be talking about is how she'd bring clinics into the high schools.
Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. So they can have abortions and gender changes.
In the schools?
In the schools in Enumclaw. Oh, yeah. She brags about it.
No way.
Full clinic.
So she's trying to push that and get state or federal
funding. She has done so. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. And with these agendas that they're pushing, man, no. Wait
a minute. Are you telling me that there is funding going into putting in abortion style?
There are clinics in schools that are getting federal funding in Washington State in the 8th Congressional District.
So they got Planned Parenthood in schools, essentially.
With how little they can tell us about what's going on there, who knows what they got going on in there.
And that's the thing, though. If we're paying for it, aren't they obligated to show us their policies?
If there are children, aren't they obligated?
I don't understand.
But yet here we are.
But speaking up about it labels you an ist or an ism. And that's the problem I don't understand. So
scapegoating.
Are you prepared when you go to D.C. for those ist and ism labels, when you bring up these hard facts? Because I think what's going to happen, you're going to get some traction going into D.C. And I'm going to do whatever I can to help flood that.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to end up happening is people are going to call you these ist and isms for representing Washington State that way. Regardless of it being true, they're going to label you that way because they feel that they're inherently coming from a place of compassion and
holier than thou.
Yeah, or affirming what they believe or whatever. They use those words.
Empathetic.
To make you look like you're the most hateful person on earth, when really, even if we say something as, well, this is conditioning and grooming, regardless. And they can say, well,
giving puberty blockers is grooming.
Right. Well, then they can say, well, so is teaching blah, 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 blah. You're right. It is a style of conditioning and grooming. However, which one is bearing beneficial fruit and which one is harming? One is harming these kids.
And I would be pretty hard-pressed to even admit the latter would be actually grooming in the standard sense, you know.
Right. And I mean, people can say the same with religion, right? I don't, but some could say that if they're...
Would try to make the counter-argument, for sure.
I look at that, okay, well, which one is producing positivity and which one is harming?
Well, like we were saying earlier, what is the agenda? What is the motive behind it? Where are they going? They're trying to get you to believe in Jesus and love your neighbor. Okay. As a person, not any more than that.
Right.
As opposed to, take these so you can keep looking like a prepubescent child so that when you're 18, like, what is this kind of stuff, man?
Yeah. And it really does mess with their cognitive abilities.
100%.
At my part-time job, I work with a lot of these individuals, and I'm not trying to harp on them, but they do cause the most problems during the work shift. Every single day. And those that are not on that stuff don't have any problems. That's just what I've noticed.
You can look at it from a medical perspective as far as the hormones that they're taking. Those things are powerful.
They really are.
And they're purely, I won't even go down that route because there's so much that could be said. But the fact that you would feel compelled to do such a transition in general, there's obviously some confusion going on inside your mind that wouldn't permeate into other behaviors would be pretty hard to believe.
I 100% agree with that.
I'm not saying every single person, but more often than not, more likely than not.
Well, it's a mental condition. It's a mental illness.
It is.
And they say, well, not everybody has that mental illness. I say, then you're pretending. You're playing pretend, or you have the mental illness.
It's not normal to want that. I mean, whatever, to each of their own, if they're over 18. But you're not going to convince me otherwise.
I would say as far as 21, 25, they can't even smoke cigarettes now.
And I 100% agree with you on that, too. Exactly. You can't smoke till you're 21. In Washington State, you can be in the juvenile system until the day you turn 26. Wow. Yeah. Most people don't know that.
Wait a minute.
Oh, yeah.
You can be in the juvenile system until the day you turn 26.
Yeah. You know what? I was telling you about that.
How does that make sense?
That position earlier where I had to leave because of the not being mandatory reporter people. They kick those kids out at 18. Kids that have never committed crimes, kids that need more help because they're developmentally disabled, they kick them out at 18, but they will work with these criminals, these murderers, till the day they turn 26.
I don't understand that.
Oh, yeah.
But at 13 years old, my daughter can make all medical decisions on her own without
and it's 12 years old, actually.
12 years old, without parental permission?
Not only that, but they can't even inform us.
I don't understand that.
Ridiculous. They're trying to break up families.
So how does that work? How can the feds be okay with that is my question.
Because you don't know about it. If they don't know about it, and thank God the Trump administration and with some strong Republican leadership, we're trying to root some of that stuff out at the federal level. They did a lot for eliminating trans surgeries on youth.
Yeah.
Thank God. I can't believe we needed to do that, but I'm glad it was done finally. Exactly. Exactly is a problem. But so they're working on that. But getting more of these problems brought to light is what matters. We're not getting this stuff brought to light in Washington because they're all Democrat.
How do we do that as the regular people get to Washington, D.C.'s attention? Is there a process like at the state level where I can sign on to a certain bill or something like that? Is there processes like that at the D.C. level? Or is it just like me as a nonprofit organization would have to get with somebody like you and really try to get a meeting or something? How does that work?
So there's a lot of lobbying that typically is required when you're trying to get to your federal officials. What I plan on doing, I was introduced to this concept meeting with some other Republican women, and they have this program that they use for their own, a couple of the state legislators to have citizens be able to kind of cast their own vote on certain issues to get feedback about what's going on and where they stand. And I plan on having those kinds of systems because there's not a whole lot, there's not like how we have in the state where you can sign in con or you can testify or things like that. You don't get that at the federal level, but you got to be able to get in touch with your representative. But if you're on the west side of the state and all your representatives are bleeding blue liberals and they're not going to listen to any kind of common sense or any concerns that you have, we've got to have another way for that. And that's what I look to do with that kind of system, bringing in a way for people to voice how they're feeling that is going to get straight to the top. Instead of having to go through all these intermediaries and that message keep getting watered down each and every step along the way.
You would think in 2026 that we would have a federal system pretty much like Washington State has, so we can do that.
There should be no reason not, even just for each congressional member.
Right, and then having that pathway for getting a response. And if they don't respond, you can reach out to one of the other representatives and at least share, because maybe they will be on the committee and they can share that email or that story during that committee meeting. Hey, this guy isn't even in my district or whatnot, but still found the time to send it to me because nobody else was listening. That sets a precedent.
And that shows you how, to me, that shows me something, that's real important. Nobody else is listening to this person, then you can damn sure bet I will.
How important is that?
How empowering is that?
You see what I mean? And the people realize, okay, well, they're not going to listen to me. Instead of giving up, let me just give a shot to this guy.
I tell you,
he'll respond. And it works.
One of the guys on my campaign is a lifelong friend. I knew him back when I was in elementary school and stuff. and he just moved back to the state and he's helped me out on his campaign. Former Navy guy, amazing individual. And he was telling me about a letter he received from Governor Schwarzenegger when he finished up his service. He got a letter from him for completing his service because he was living in California at the time, and just how much that meant to him. He still has it after all these years, how impactful it matters. It means something.
Right.
Just to know that you were heard.
And recognize.
I've been there, man. I know what that's like because I know what the opposite is like, far more than I know what it's like to be recognized. I know what the opposite is, and I don't want people to feel like that because of me.
They feel
exactly. A voice for the voiceless, man.
Is that something that you think that you would try to implement if you were to be elected for DC level? Is that something that you would try to implement, a system to where at the U.S. level people can sign in?
Oh, I will absolutely be implementing that from my office, and I'm going to make sure that catches fire.
I think
that's the goal. That's always been my goal. It's never something I ever say, I'm going to go into your program, I'm going to change it for the better. You don't get hired too often like that. Mm-hmm. But when you go in there and you just make those changes by leading by example, man, that's what I love to do, is make those programs better. I remember when I was working in the juvenile community facility for individuals that were still under custody, but were released from behind the bars and are living in the community so they can work and things like that. And working there, just understanding where it's coming from. And when I was out there, it was really refreshing to see how the impact that you have, they're in there, you're trying to get them beyond that, but when you see their worlds opening up because of they're able to do more things, they're able to start putting some value behind what they're doing, the impact that you can have there. That's what I wanted to do. When I started working at that facility, they had just gone over. They had just had an audit, a review from the quality assurance people.
Okay.
And so they got their scores, and I saw where their scores were. They weren't the worst. They weren't the best. They could be improved. They did those reviews every year, and I got there just after they had done that first review. When they came back the next year to do that review again, it was very one of those things you don't want to take credit for. One of those things I was just happy to be around it. Whether it was because of me having any impact, I sure hope so, but who knows? Right. But the amount of improvement that we have from 1 year over, and that's what I'm all about, man. It's not my goal to change things up. Is just like my goal isn't to ruffle feathers, but I'm not afraid to ruffle some feathers. I'm there to make things better. I'm not there to collect a check or to keep a seat warm. I don't care about that. I don't care to be popular or to get my face in. That's not what motivates me. It's
making change.
Making change.
Making Washington great again.
Mm-hmm.
Showing people that we can make that change for the better.
That we want to. That there's more of us that want to do that than not. We're tired of going down this slippery slope to oblivion of craziness.
I want to close on one last question. How do you right now feel about trying to get the regular, everyday people involved in politics? How does that make you feel? Do you think it's an uphill battle, especially in Washington State, because so many people don't get involved at that level? How does that make you feel?
To me, I think it's a light switch that we just need to get turned on. The only problem is each individual has their own light switch. So there's a lot of light switches that we need to turn on. But when people start being introduced to how accessible things are for them to be involved, that's going to make a difference. When people start realizing that there's more like-minded people that want strong, traditional, common sense values and see that policy implemented statewide, more people are going to be turning out. When we start winning, people are going to start realizing that we can win. I mean, that's how it goes. To win, you got to win. When you start winning, you keep winning, As it's been said, winning is a habit. Yeah. And we need to get back to that habit because we can do it. We don't know how. We don't think that we can. And I'm here to show everyone that we can. One of the biggest things that I'm running against right now is because of 25 elections. They didn't all shake out for us as well as they could have.
Right.
If we won some, we could have won some more. And people got a little down on that. And I can understand that. But one of the biggest things that I want people to realize about what separates this 8th congressional district from a King County election per se is in King County, amongst all the other things that you need to do, the one thing that you need to do to win a King County election is you got to win it.
Right.
You got to get the 51 or the 50.1%. You got to win it outright. And that can be tough to do, especially in certain areas in King County. To win the 8th Congressional District, we don't need to win King County to win the 8th Congressional District. We just need to do better. And I'm not talking about mountains better. I'm just talking about a little bit better. Like with any championship, it comes down to 3%. Right. The difference between winning that championship or second place comes down to 3% more effort. All we need is a 3% improvement in King County, and we win the 8th Congressional District. That's it.
It's possible.
It's
very possible.
That brass ring's right within reach. If we get a presidential turnout, the same people that voted in 24 vote in 26, we win hands down. But with this message, like I said, it resonates across the board. Whether you're blue or red, doesn't matter. Independent, Washington State is one of the most independently thinking states in the entire nation. Even people that party identify are still very independently thinking people. And that's what I really want to focus on. It's like I said, this isn't about party lines. It's about principles. And these principles relate with everybody across the board. When we start focusing on that kind of thing, like I said, that's how we're going to win. People are going to start realizing that, not only is this the direction that we're going, but this is the direction that people want to be going. There's a momentum behind this. We're going to start winning. We're going to bring it back. We're going to make Washington great again.
Well, I love that. Well, Andres, I think this is a great point to close here, man. Is there any way that you want to reach out, have people reach out to you, any ways that they can help you during your campaign or anything like that? What's a good way to get in contact and help you on this journey?
Absolutely. I'd appreciate that. First of all, while we're wrapping up, I would like to give grace to God for bringing me here, bringing me on this journey,
Amen.
Meeting with you. I'll tell you, I've been asked this once, is what's the most surprising thing about this whole campaign to me, and it's been the support. I would have never imagined this. I still remember how I was feeling the first meeting I ever went to, and I just never thought I would get the support that I'm getting it, and it's a godsend. So I appreciate the people I've been working for, and really want to thank my family as well, because they're having to put up with me. My daughter, I've had to drag her to so many things. God bless her heart. She's been doing so well. My wife has to put up with me, and me springing this on her at the last minute. It's like, you're doing what? So I want to give thanks to all the people that have been behind me, and especially my supporters, because without them I would be nowhere, and without us collectively we would get nowhere. And that's what we're trying to do, is make these changes. If people want to reach out to me, I would love to hear from you. VallezaForCongress.com is my website, numeral, or VallezaForCongress.com. Either one works. That's going to be the best way to reach out to me. So
perfect. Thank you so much, man. Let's get this ball rolling. I appreciate everything that you're doing, and I believe that your values match perfectly with my values as well, and I'm happy to help get you along the way and get this message going, dude, because we need the help here.
I appreciate that, Anthony. And honest, God, man, I appreciate the work that you've done. I love what I'm doing. I'm trying to do my best. But the people that are actually out there and actually doing things, especially for our youth, especially the ones that could be influenced in the wrong way, man, you guys are worth more than gold to me. So I appreciate what you do. Thank you very much.
I'm just trying.
No, you're doing. And that's all that matters. I love it. Thank you. And you have a great rest of your day, man. Take care.